1,000 songs. And it goes right in my pocket.
Failure of the future has to be a nation that is agile, that is innovative, that is creative.
Welcome to Future Squared, the podcast all about innovation in the enterprise, brought to you and run by Collective Campus, an innovation hub based in Australia that works with companies to help them adopt the mindset, methodologies and tools to successfully explore new business models and disruptive innovation in an era of rapid change. For more information, go to www.collectivecamp.us. And without further ado, here's today's podcast.
Hello and welcome back to Future Squared for episode number 7. Today we'll be speaking with Fabio Oliveira, Innovation Program Manager at Kmart Australia. Fabio was previously Managing Director with Huddle Academy, Business Unit Manager at Kaizen Institute in Brazil, and today we'll be exploring all things design thinking and innovation in retail with Fabio. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure, absolute pleasure. So, as always, we start with having our guest tell us a little bit about themselves.
Yeah, cool. So my background is really a little bit crazy. I ended up in retail by accident, but I graduated in business back in Brazil, and my first job was in a bank, Bank of America.
Okay.
Working with foreign investments, and which was really interesting, but very boring.
Yeah. I also spent some time at Macquarie Bank in risk management, which is worlds away from the wonderful world of lean startup and design thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but what was interesting is that I had the opportunity to work on some new products, although it's not exactly as sexy as we would think. New products for foreign investments is just can find 2 clients a year to invest in big banks and all that. But then I ended up moving to Johnson Johnson to work in product marketing, and that was an amazing experience. Great company, just a lot of frameworks to learn. If you're just a recent graduate, that's everything you want. You just want to learn. And I was working with that was my first experience in innovation, because I was responsible for what we call new products introduction. So everything from finding opportunities to taking them to the market. That was just an amazing experience, and then after that I moved to Telefonica, which is kind of a Telstra from Brazil and Europe, massive company, and that was also great. I had the chance to work on the enterprise division, and we was a recently created department where we would just test to go to the big companies in Brazil and offer them different solutions, something that they were not buying before. And we had the whole Telefonica portfolio to work with, which is massive.
Wow.
And so that exposed me to a lot of different, companies like airline companies, healthcare, and it was just amazing. And I ended up going to marketing. Took me to be a marketing manager on a consulting firm called Kaizen Institute in Brazil. After 6 months, I ended up basically being invited to start a new business unit there. They were very focused on manufacturing companies, and they wanted to expand the business to services. And then I started working with them, and then that's how my operations experience came about. Very, very interesting. I never had that experience, and I was actually, wouldn't say the opposite, but marketing for me was very creative and challenging. The operations, even not looking at operations, and then I had to be on the other side, trying to create solid operations. And I stayed there for 4 or 5 years, and then moved to Australia.
Yes.
Yeah.
How long ago did you move to Australia?
3.5 years ago, a little bit more than that.
Fantastic. And originally from Sao Paulo, I believe?
Yes.
Fantastic. I had the pleasure of visiting Sao Paulo during the World Cup in 2014. Beautiful, beautiful city. Very, very large city. I believe the population was 20 odd million, is that right?
20 million,
So
Australia in
4 times the size of Melbourne.
Yeah,
and it's such a distributed city because everybody tends to live, there's obviously you've got your apartment blocks, but there's a lot of actual houses and whatnot, so it's quite, the landmass of the city is huge.
Yes, it's huge, and I don't regret not being in Brazil for the World Cup. Now that after we finish,
Yeah.
it's really traumatizing for all Brazilians.
I'll try not to remind our audience of the result. 7-1. But anyway, excellent. So you touched on Johnson & Johnson there, the new product introduction. That was about, 10 odd years ago now? Or
Probably 8 years ago, 9 years ago. Yeah.
And so back then, I mean, was J&J, the way they went about developing new products, was there much focus on, that sort of customer-centric design, or was it your traditional stage gate sort of process back then?
Yeah, I would say 100% stage gate.
Yeah.
We had a chance to use research, but it was definitely not customer-centric research to test some concepts but definitely, and I was on the pharmaceutical division, so it was even harder to talk to customers because of regulations and things like that. So it was definitely stage gate, which is interesting to have that experience and then balance that out with what I found out later.
Yeah, you can see the best of both worlds. And I mean, I guess stage gate makes sense where you're operating in conditions of extreme certainty and there's no unknown variables, but as soon as the number of unknown variables gets higher and higher, then it doesn't really make sense to go in with this framework which is all about having all the answers up front.
Exactly. And even if you think the pharmaceutical environment in Brazil especially, that we didn't have a strong R&D capability, was very much predictable. You basically bring in products from overseas and just had to launch them.
Yeah.
We had the chance to explore a little bit, but most of the work was just getting the product on time so you can start selling as soon as possible.
And that's an interesting model, just taking products from overseas and launching them locally. Did you find that was an approach that worked all of the time, or was there instances where the local political, economic, social, cultural factors actually didn't support that product succeeding?
Yeah, well, mainly for pricing. I think that was the cost of some of the products were just impossible to bring to Brazil, especially because if it was a product that the government had to pay and it was very expensive, it would take years and years to get the approval.
Yeah.
Sometimes just wouldn't be possible to do it. So that was the challenge actually. What can we make it fit into the Brazilian market that considering all the stakeholders, governments, doctors that are going to just be able to sell.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and I guess you've gone on a bit of a transition over that time, coming from that world of stage gate to becoming the managing director at Huddle Academy a couple of years ago now. And obviously you're a huge advocate for design thinking. You took part in the Global Design Jam, Global Service Jam over the weekend. Do you want to tell me a bit about that evolution and how you came to get into the world of human-centered design?
Yeah, I think with my background in marketing, I was always thinking that we could do something more with marketing. There was a lot of expert-based opinion on launches and campaigns and all that, and I thought that should be done in a different way. Probably around 2009, I was looking for when I was at Kaizen Institute, we were thinking about expanding a little bit more the business to services, and we knew that operations was a big opportunity, but what else could we do? And then I ended up finding things about service design, which is design thinking is all about service design, and then I started reading about it and participating on courses, and then started organizing the Global Service Jam in Brazil since 2011, and then that's when I started working with it. It's just that's the way to go. And, and since then, basically that's what I've been trying to do, and use design thinking and combining with my background in operations and marketing to solve the problems that I have at work. Yeah,
fantastic. And so you've recently rejoined Kmart Australia as their innovation program manager. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that role? I guess some of your objectives, at least those objectives you're happy to share, and post that. What role design thinking is playing in helping you achieve those objectives?
Yeah, sure. Well, Kmart's going on, if you look at 7 years ago, Kmart was almost bankrupt, and we have been tracking really well the last 7 years. today I think we're the most profitable discount retailer in Australia. Just had the results published last week. It was amazing. And we are now a growing business, and we have growing pains. And we're using innovation. I think the first level that we're using innovation is to find opportunities to grow the business in terms of operations. So what we can see when we look at operations, what are the key constraints that we have to deliver customer value? And this might sound very efficiency based, but the approach that we use to develop those projects is a combination of lean methodologies and human-centered design. Because if you look, we have 30,000 team members at Kmart. And when we are thinking about changing operations in stores, you have to make sure that the product that you're creating, the new process that you're creating, needs to be desirable by those 30,000 team members.
Correct.
So the way that we develop everything, of course, has a view on how can we support Kmart growth and have a solid operation, but also how can this be desirable, not even acceptable, but desirable by the team members. So that's how we at Kmart we have been using design thinking. I would say that's level one. And of course, then now we're starting to look at what are the next step, which is operational processes that are not delivering a good customer experience in store, and how can we bring what are the customers basically want out of these experience points in store, like checkouts, for example, and how can we change that from, of course, an operational perspective, but mainly a customer experience perspective.
Excellent. So I guess customer experience is then one of the key focus points in terms of what innovation means for Kmart going forward.
Yeah, exactly. Although we might be working in operation, and although we might be working, let's say, on the back of house, on a stockroom, we want to actually address what are the pain points that we have in the store. Let's say if we want to get the stock on show faster, that's probably an operational problem. But mainly the target that we're looking is customer satisfaction, to find the items that they're going.
Yeah, exactly. And focusing on technology, for example, checkouts and whatnot, it's not so much about the technology as it is about the outcome, which is a better customer experience.
Exactly. We believe that technology plays a big part in what we do, and we'll have to play it even more. But initially, that's definitely not where we start. I think that's one of the mistakes that sometimes the companies.
Yes, very much so. Especially, I think in this era where you Google digital transformation, and there's just hundreds and thousands of entries of companies embarking on these transformations. But oftentimes, the question, I suppose, needs to be asked: why? What is the outcome? Is it digital for digital's sake? Are the current processes broken? What value are we going to generate as a result of this transformation? Or is it just something that we're doing to be seen to be doing something?
Exactly, yeah. And I think that at Kmart, we have a really good and very strong culture on being customer-centric, from merchandising, designing and buying the products that the customers are actually looking on trend, but also in IT and store operations. We see the customer as the hero, and of course that helps to get everyone engaged. And when you speak the customer language and you talk that you're doing this for the customer, things are much easier to happen.
Excellent. You touched there on the 30,000 employees. I wrote an article the other week about GE and how they went on this massive, for lack of a better word, transformation to teach their people lean startup philosophy and methodology. However, once those people, who were generally middle managers, went back to their business units, the systems, the culture, the values really didn't support, fail fast, build prototypes, and all the other sort of build, measure, learn philosophies underpinning lean startup. How have you gone about getting 30,000 employees on site? I mean, has there been engagement with HR? Have you brought employees along on the journey so they can appreciate, human-centered design thinking, why you're doing things? Because as human beings, we have this innate resistance to change. I'm keen to explore how you've managed to, or how you're planning on tackling that problem.
Yeah, I think that That's a really good point, because we can't forget that lean startup is great, design thinking is great, but you still have to run the business. You still have to open the door of the store. You still have to put stock on show, and it's hard to get everyone to actually change the way they work, because some of them potentially they shouldn't change because they need to run the business. But the way that we approach is everything that we develop is developed inside a store, because most of the projects that we run, they are impacting stores. So we have team members part of the group that develop, store managers, line managers, and team members that work with us to actually design those new processes, new projects. And what we do is we try to get the language that they speak, the feedback that they give us. They are all part of this new project that we put in. So when you talk about co-creation, that's what we do. We see the new process, the new project that we're developing as a product, and it needs to be designed by those team members. And of course, we have rounds of iteration where we take that initial product to other stores to understand if it's validated, all the language, the communication that we're using, how easy it is to understand, and we take that across the country. And what we see is that there is when you get it right, the viral effect is easy to see. Because especially with store managers, they don't want to miss out. If they see that there's something working, and not only working in terms of results, but that the stores are also interested, the team members are happy. That's the main thing. So that's basically how we do. We have an innovation store, then we move ahead, and then that's the work is done. Like there's, of course, HR's involvement is needed, but usually we don't need to even do that.
Excellent. I like what you've touched on there around co-creation, as opposed to some top-down corporate initiative. I think if you engage people in that process, there's a lot more ownership. And it kind of reminds me of the Whole Foods model in the States. They've got, I think, thousands of outlets now, but every store has different stock, and managers have autonomy to order whatever they like and test it. However, all these results are captured in a central database. So if I'm a manager from another store, and like you said, store managers want results, they don't want to miss out. I see this store on the other side of the States is doing well selling this product, let's try that. But it is decision they make, and because it is that co-creation, people feel like they own a piece of the company, and not only are they more likely to stick around longer and be more engaged and more productive, it fosters better results.
Exactly, and it's just a waste of great intelligence if you don't tackle into those store managers. For example, we have store managers that are managing $30-35 million business, even more, and amazing professionals that we have to work with them. Their input's so valuable that it's just could be anyone doing the innovation role, but you're never going to be as intelligent as capturing all those amazing team members that we have. So that's what we do. And going back a little bit to theory, we use the 3 principles of design thinking a lot. Empathy means that we are there. We talk to the team members. We work with them. We feel their pains. Collaboration, co-creation that I already mentioned, and experimentation. So being at the store allows us to change every hour, every minute the process, every day. So I remember one of the last trials that we did, we have 27 iterations on the first 2 days. Wow. If I was sitting in the office, how many changes I would have noticed? Zero.
Exactly. That's fantastic, and I think that's a great point. Lots of organizations who have these top-down initiatives, yet they have maybe 1,000 middle managers who are out there every day in the field observing opportunities, challenges, threats, different experiences, but not really capturing that knowledge in any meaningful way. I know certain companies I've spoken to have basically said, well, we interview people at random once or twice a year, in which case you're not capturing all the knowledge, you're only going to capture the most recent experiences. So having this ongoing co-collaboration, co-creation sort of process is very important. I know some organizations have knowledge management or idea capture systems in place, like Spigot and Crowdicity to foster that ideation throughout the year, and not just when someone taps you on the shoulder and says, "Hey, what's happening?"
Yeah, exactly. And we do have those tools, but I think there's that's not enough.
Yeah.
You can always empathy is the main thing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need to